Right now, somewhere in this country, a phone is lighting up on a kitchen counter with a number nobody recognizes. By the time you finish reading this sentence, that's happened about 1,600 more times. Everywhere, every second. That's the actual rate these days. And a lot of those calls, the recorded ones, the ones you never said yes to, aren't just annoying. They're against the law. There's a federal law that's been sitting quietly on the books since 1991, and it says something that sounds almost made up. When one of those calls breaks the rules, the person who got the call, you, can collect $500 for it. Not the phone company, not some agency in Washington, you. And if they did it on purpose, that $500 turns into $1,500. $500, one call. Millions of these go out every single day. The law basically leaves money sitting on the counter for the illegal ones, and almost no regular person ever picks it up. Because between that buzzing phone and that $500, there's a catch. A few of them, actually. And the first stops most people before they ever start. First catch, not every call counts. And I know that's a letdown, because the way this gets passed around online, you'd think every time your phone buzzes with a robot on the other end, there's $500 sitting there waiting for you. It isn't. It's pickier than the YouTube version of it. So let me actually walk through which calls the law cares about, because this is exactly where most people either give up or get it wrong.
That federal law from 1991, the one that creates the whole $500 thing, only really gets angry about a few specific kinds of calls. Number one, and this is the big one for regular people, a call with a recorded or fake-sounding voice. You pick up and instead of a person, there's a recording. We've been trying to reach you about your car's extended warranty. This is an important message about your loan. That kind. Sometimes it's not even a recording the whole way through. Sometimes a live person comes on, or a press 1 to speak with an agent prompt kicks in. Doesn't matter. If a machine with the recorded or artificial voice started that call to your phone and you never gained the permission, that's a violation. That's the one worth money. There's a second kind, and it's narrower. Telemarketing calls to a number that's on the national do not call list. But, and this part trips people up, for those, one call usually isn't enough. The rule generally wants to see more than one call inside a 12-month window before you've actually got something. One annoying dinner time call doesn't cut it. 2, 3, a pattern, now you're somewhere. And the part most channels skip right past, the thing that quietly kills more of these than anything else, consent. You probably said yes, not out loud, not on purpose, but somewhere on a form, on a website, buried in the wall of fine print under a button you tapped at 11 at night to grab a coupon or check a quote, there was a line that said something like, by continuing, you agreed to receive calls, including automated ones. You scrolled right past it. Everybody scrolls past it. And the second you tap that button, in the eyes of this law, you told them, yes, you can call me. So a company's lawyer pulls up a screenshot of the box you checked back in 2023, and your $500 call quietly becomes a call you invited. I've watched this go sideways enough times to be sure of one thing. It's almost always the consent question that decides these long before anybody gets around to talking about money.
Now I want to push back on something because it genuinely bugs me. Every article, every video, every well-meaning local news segment hands you the first step, put your number on the do not call list. And yeah, do it. It's free, takes 2 minutes, 258 million numbers are already on there, you'll be in good company. But that list is not the thing protecting your wallet. Not for the calls that are actually worth suing over. Because the operation running an illegal recorded message scam, the warranty robot, the fake debt relief pitch, is not politely checking the do not call list. They don't care about the list. They never looked at the list. That registry mostly trims the calls from companies that were going to play by the rules anyway. So when somebody tells you it's your shield, they've got it backwards. It helps with the calls that are already legal. All the money, the $500, the $1,500, lives in the illegal ones. And those two groups barely overlap. These aren't rare either. Last year alone, Americans got buried under about 52.5 billion robocalls. Billion, with a B. That's somewhere around 140 million of them a day. Most are junk. A real slice of that junk is flat out illegal, and almost none of it ever turns into a check for the person whose phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Okay, let me back up to the good news, because there is some, and it's better than you'd think. When a call does count, recorded voice, no permission, your number. You don't have to prove you lost money. You don't have to show the call cost you a dime. $500 is just the number, baked in. Congress set a flat price on the violation itself, on purpose, back in '91, because they understood that a single junk call only costs you a few seconds and a little blood pressure, and no sane person would ever sue over a few seconds, so they made the few seconds worth your time. which, honestly, is a more clever piece of lawmaking than I expected the first time I sat down and actually read it.
And it gets stranger in a way that actually matters, because these calls almost never come one at a time. Think about your own phone for a second. When the warranty robot finally finds you, does it call once? Or is it Tuesday, then Thursday, then twice more the next week? Same recording, same too-friendly voice, your screen lighting up with potential spam while you're trying to eat dinner for a solid month. That pattern isn't a nuisance. Under this law, that's a stack. And the number a stack like that climbs to is where this stops being a few $100s and turns into the kind of figure that makes a person set down their coffee and finally read the rest of the page. Because the real number isn't 500. It almost never is. 10 calls. That's all it takes for this to stop being pocket change. 10 illegal recorded calls at $500 each is $5,000. Not a typo, 5,000. And remember, the warranty robot doesn't stop at 10. These things will hit you 15, 20, 25 times across a couple of months if you let them. Pull up your call log right now and count the potential spam entries from the last 60 days. For a lot of people, that quiet little list on their phone is sitting on more money than their tax refund. Now stack the other thing on top. If the company did it on purpose, if you told them to stop and they kept going, or you can show they knew they had no business calling you, a judge can take that $500 and triple it. $1,500 a call. So those same 10 calls aren't $5,000 anymore, they're 15. There's a cold little word for that, and all it really means in plain English is they weren't confused, they knew, and they did it anyway, and there's no cap. That's the part that surprised me. Most laws that pay you money have a ceiling, a most you can get number sitting at the top. This one doesn't. 100 illegal calls is 100 separate violations. It just keeps climbing. What actually decides who gets paid, though, is almost never the law. It's the homework. Same scam, same month, same fake warranty recording calling two different people in the same town. One of them, the second the call started feeling wrong, opened the Notes app on her phone and just wrote it down. Date, time, what the recording said, a screenshot of the number. Every single time, 30 seconds of typing, by the end of the month she had a list nobody could argue with. But the other person did what most of us do. Got annoyed, swore at the phone, hit delete, moved on. Months later, when both of them found out this law even existed, one had a tidy, dated screenshot back record of 14 violations. The other had a feeling and an empty call log because his phone had already wiped the old entries. One of those two had something worth $4,000, $5,000, maybe $10,000. The other had a story. Same calls. The only thing that changed was whether somebody wrote it down while it was happening. I want to flag one thing because when I first read it, I genuinely thought I'd misunderstood. A few years back, this whole law almost got gutted. The Supreme Court took a case about what counts as a robo-dialing machine, and they narrowed it hard. A lot of people in this world figured that was it. The law was basically dead, and I honestly assumed the same thing. But I had to go back and read the actual decision twice because here's what they didn't touch: the recorded voice part. The court trimmed one narrow definition and left the main thing, calls with a recorded or artificial voice to your phone without permission, completely, fully intact. The piece that matters most for a normal person never moved an inch. So if some older video told you the Supreme Court killed this law, they're talking about a different corner of it than the one that pays you. And quick tangent, but it matters. A huge share of these calls now come spoofed, meaning the number on your screen is fake, often bounced through the internet from somewhere overseas to look local and friendly. That's the whole reason scam likely exists. Okay, back to the point. Because that tangent is also the wall, the honest one. This is exactly where the $500 a call dream falls apart, and no video selling it to you will say this out loud. If you can't figure out who actually called you, there is nobody to send a bill to. A law that pays you $500 a call is worth nothing against a scammer running a fake number out of a building you'll never find, in a country that won't pick up the phone. You can have 100 violations logged, perfect dates, beautiful screenshots, and still have no one to sue because the caller is a ghost. And this, by the way, is the gap nobody mentions. Lawyers absolutely chase these. Big firms file hundreds of these cases a year, and the average one settles for millions because when a real company robo-dials a few 100,000 people, 500 a call turns into a number with a frightening amount of zeros. But that whole machine is built for mass cases against findable companies. The single person, with their 14 calls sitting at the kitchen table, nobody's filing a class action for them. If they want their piece, they're doing it themselves. So the calls actually worth your time usually aren't the pure overseas scams. They're the ones from real companies, the lead generation outfit, the marketing firm that bought your number and dials with a recording because a recording is cheap, the ones with an actual office, an actual name, an actual bank account a court can reach. Those are what turn a phone log into a check, which means the whole thing, the $500, the $1,500, the $10,000 question, comes down to one move most people never even try: turning that anonymous buzzing on your counter into a name, an address, a company you can put in front of a judge. And there's a quiet, unglamorous way people do exactly that. It doesn't take a lawyer, it mostly takes patience and a willingness to do the one thing the scammers are betting you're too tired to do. So you do the thing nobody wants to do. The next time that recording calls, you don't hang up, you let it run. You press 1, you wait for the agent, and you stay calm and friendly and a little bored, and you ask the simple stuff a curious customer would ask. Who's calling? What company? What's the website? Is there a number you can call back? You're not arguing, you're collecting. And the whole time, one rule: you give them nothing. No card, no social, no yes to anything. You're there to get a name out of them, and that's all. Sometimes they hang up the second you sound like you're writing things down. Sometimes they slip and say the company. Sometimes a callback number or the link in a follow-up text traces back to a real business with a real address. And that's the moment this stops being a ghost and becomes a defendant. That detective work is exactly what the law quietly assumes you'll do. And it's exactly the part most people are too worn down to bother with. Scammers are counting on that tired, counting on you deleting instead of digging. Once you've got a name, the log you've been keeping turns into a case. Dates, times, what each recording said, the screenshots, that boring little list is now evidence. Then comes the letter. And I watch people freeze right here because send a demand letter sounds like something that needs a law degree and a wax seal. It doesn't. In plain terms, it's a letter to the company that says, you called me, here are the dates, this broke a federal law, you owe me this much, and you've got, say, 14 days to pay before I take you to court. You send it certified mail, the kind where you get a little green card back proving they received it. That green card matters more than it looks because now they can't claim they never knew. And a company that kept calling after a letter like that, that's the on purpose that turns 500 into 1,500.
A surprising number of companies just pay. They do the math, they see a court date and legal fees on one side and a few $1,000s on the other, and they cut a check in 30, 60 days to make you go away. Not always, but often enough that the letter is rarely a wasted stamp. If they ignore it, they're small claims court. And this is the part the whole law was secretly built around. It's the people's courtroom. No lawyer required. You fill out a short form, pay a filing fee that's usually somewhere around $50, and a judge actually hears you. But the catch is the friction nobody warns you about. You have to officially deliver the papers to the company, that's called serving them, and you usually can't just drop it in a mailbox yourself. It goes through the court clerk, a sheriff, or a process server. Then you take a morning off work, you show up with your dated log, and you tell the judge a very simple story with very specific numbers. Here's where I'll disagree with the standard advice out loud. Every corner of the internet will tell you to hire a TCPA lawyer who works for free unless you win. Takes their cut, usually around a third, only if there's a payout. And for the right case, that's genuinely great. But for a handful of traceable calls from one mid-sized company, you often don't need to hand a third of it to anybody. That's what small claims is for. What I tell my own parent is the reverse of what the lead generation lawyer sites tell you. Do the small ones yourself and only bring in the contingent lawyer when it's big, hundreds of calls, or the company turns out to be huge and shows up with its own attorneys. That's the moment to stop playing solo, not before.
Now the honest part. Friend to friend, like I'd want someone to say it to me, this is general information, not a plan for your exact situation, and your state has its own wrinkles. Some pay more than the federal 500, some basically require that demand letter first. A few have their own clocks. If there's real money on the table or the calls trace somewhere serious, 15 minutes of a lawyer in your own state who can look at your actual facts is worth more than any video, including this one. One more thing, because it's the quiet trap. You've got roughly 4 years from the call to do something about it. People hear 4 years and feel like there's no rush, and that's exactly how it slips away. Your phone wipes the old entries. That recording you swore you'd remember blurs into all the others. Those screenshots you meant to take never got taken. What kills most of these isn't the deadline, it's forgetting. So look at your phone right now. That list of calls you've been swiping away without reading. Potential spam, scam likely, the number that's hit you 4 times this week. Some of that, for some of you, is money you've been deleting because deleting feels like winning. It isn't. It's just quiet. I don't really know why nobody teaches this before you need it, why you can get all the way to 40 without anyone mentioning that the most annoying thing in your pocket might also be the most valuable if you just write it down instead of throwing it away. Next time it rings, you don't have to answer it, but maybe don't delete it.